Good morning. This is Talking Devils, a leading independent Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by Manchester United legend Paul Parker. Good morning, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Wayne. Always better second time round.
Yeah, bit of a warm up. Sorry about that. The Gremlins in the system, probably because it's St. Patrick's Day, joining Dave in trying to take the day off. But Paul and I are slaves to talking about United, so we'll keep on the good fight. Leicester 0, Manchester United 3. Fairly convincing win in the end, Paul. Very, very disappointing Leicester side. Not one. I think they'd lost the last six at home without scoring a goal, lost them all by a margin of 2 goals. They'd lost the last 6 or 7 as well without scoring. Really, really dreadful Leicester side at the moment. So United couldn't have hoped for a better opponent to go and take on, and they did, and basically had a very, very comfortable evening. Sunday 7 p.m. kickoff, like we all love. We'll talk about the individual elements of that. Aidan Evans' injury, Hoyland's goal, and the system and what to take from it. But on the basis of Paul, you can only beat what's in front of you. United did as well as could be expected, really.
Yeah, and it's nice that yes, United played a game which they was expected to win, but it was in the manner in which they done it. Because a few weeks back it could have been a little bit different. Yes, you can say Leicester have been poor for quite a while, but if teams are that poor, being who you are, you have to go and beat them well, and to go and win the game 3-0 as well, straight away makes a big difference. And off the back of what's happened in Europe and that, I think they've just gone into that game feeling a little bit better in themselves. But again, as I always say, the next game is just as maybe more important now after that. Gone and scored 3 goals away from home up against a Leicester side, which I saw at West Ham, and they were terrible, absolutely terrible. No, they're just no. They were just so passive in everything they'd done. They were 2-0 down at halftime, come out second half and played the game like they were 2-0 up. You
Yeah,
know, and it was just shocking. And I don't know what's happened to them, but I initially said it when it happened. But Rude should never have been given that job.
yeah,
They as far as they're concerned, they made a mistake in bringing Cooper there. The fans never took to him. But the next person who come in needed a manager who had the know-how of being in that situation. And there's a lot out there because that's football. There's more out there who can do jobs in that position than ones to win the league.
mm,
And they took someone on with no great experience, one who has got a few issues with certain players as well. And I saw that bang on when I was at West Ham watching that game. You could see it, the way the players reacted to him, and yet those players are still playing. So that says really about a lot about things where other clubs they wouldn't be playing. So, but the long and short of it is that United got a convincing win in a manner which they should do against a side as poor as Leicester City.
yeah. There were moments where they could have easily reacted badly with the injury. You know what I mean? You never know how players can react to an injury. Um, the other thing is like it felt like a really flat weekend, didn't it? After Wolves won at Southampton, so basically everything in the tables cut and dried. Like we're going to play a quarter of a Premier League season. Everything's more or less settled. You know what I mean? All right, there's Champions League places to play for, but it makes it all a bit flat, really. And you could feel that in the Arsenal Chelsea game. There was not a lot going on in that. And that, like last night, the thing that you've got at United, of course, is that there are individual elements to play for. Some of these players are playing for the future. Hoyland, one who's been carrying this burden of trying to score. Um, and he did get on the score sheet yesterday. A couple of dodgy touches in the build up to it, but the last one was lethal and scored with his right foot. A bit of a gift, really, considering the run that he's been on. What did you make of Hoyland yesterday?
Well, be honest, any margin on what he's been of late is fantastic. To be perfectly honest, and the cherry on the top is scoring a goal
Yeah,
with his weaker foot. It was the opportunity to pull it across, wasn't there? He didn't. He could have actually tried to lay it
yeah,
off across, but it was on his right foot. I wouldn't have fancied him to do that because it needed a bit of precision. But he took it on himself, as he's seen so many people take things on themselves, and he's done maybe most strikers would have taken that opportunity on from that angle, and he's hit it with his right foot. He's had a little bit of a loop on it because it wasn't. He didn't strike straight, straight onto the ball. He's kind of kicked it across it, and it's gone away from the keeper and at the far post. So, scoring goals make a difference. Doesn't matter what's happened in between, before, and at the end. You got your name on the score sheet. Given that it's been a while since it's been there, you have to say, for everyone looking in from the outside, say, "Oh, he had a good game."
Yeah, same for Garnacho really, but a player with a different kind of an issue. Whereas Højlund and Xerxes are both. I mean, Xerxes definitely doesn't look like a natural 9, so he's not going to be playing in that role next season. But bit of a celebration going on for Paul there. There you go, win 3-0. The fireworks come out.
I think it must have been because I took positive for one. It must have been someone's. That's how that's happened.
Yeah, but they a different kettle of fish in terms of Garnacho. I mean, he scored, had one disallowed as well. The spirit of those disallowed goals still rankles with me, not because United had it disallowed, but it's just not really much of an advantage in there. I mean, he's offside, but then as soon as Wenger's sort of daylight rule comes in, I'll be a happier man. And I never thought I'd be saying Arsene Wenger's changes for the game are the things I want to see, but that's definitely one I'm happy with. Robbie says, happy St. Patrick's Day. That's why Dave's not here. I did say that in the aborted show earlier on. But so Garnacho, onto him. So he scores the goal. I wouldn't say particularly brilliant again, but a different kind of an issue for him, because whereas Højlund's got to build his confidence and sort of, I don't think anyone's going to be convinced that he's going to be a number 9 leading for United next season, but he's definitely got to sort of argue the case that he's got to now be considered in the squad, because his place in the squad is at risk, right? So United's biggest issue with the forwards has been confidence in form. Højlund has to prove himself that he can still contribute when he's not out of confidence, because if he's not contributing anything when he's not confident, he's a dead weight to the squad. And United, they can't afford to have that as a number 9. Garnacho's a bit of a different kettle of fish, because normally you would be looking at his trajectory and saying, all right, well, how does he kick on from the first 18 months of his career? But you've got a manager who's playing a completely different style with the way that he would be expected to play. He's learning to play a different kind of way. Yeah, all right, that's a football issue as well. But normally you would be saying to a player who's grown up in an environment, go on, kick on and see what you're made of. He's having to be doing that at the same time as learning a new role and a new system. There have been green shoots of progress from him in the last few weeks, but obviously some question marks over his attitude as well that's still there. What did you make of Garnacho yesterday?
Still very indifferent. The goal kind of hides quite a bit again, as far as I'm concerned. Does he fit into Wijnaldum's, the manager's team? What he's looking at after seeing a little burst of the way that Sporting play, I would say no, in the way he plays. So if I look at it for next season and the manager can try and get what he wants, but I think the way it's going to be young players who are going to be coming in. If not from within, it's going to be from outside, younger players, because you've got to look at it financially. I would say that Garnacho doesn't fit in because there's no great role for him to play where he actually excels at. Where he wants to be is on the left, wide, and be out there. And the only way you're going to really be there consistently if you're playing as a wing back, in that wing back role, to be out there, or if you can maybe go when he sits in behind the 2, you go out there and you do jobs. But I don't think his ball retention is good enough in that role. Can he find a pass? No. Has he got a change of pace to run in behind? No. So I don't think he really fits. And given how he has been himself as a person and the way the manager sees him, the issues there, I really do think he doesn't fit into his side for next season. He fits at the moment because you look at what they've got for squad depth, and now he's seen as one of the most experienced players, but he hasn't excelled or evolved, I should say, as a player from when he made a start.
One player who has been under criticism lately, and it's quite funny. Just on this, before we get on to talk about Bruno, just a comment from Johnny there. Garnacho looks awkward on the right. Get the feeling he prefers cutting into shoot. Being on the right means he has to cross. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But I also thought when he did that under Ten Hag, I actually thought we were seeing some signs of progress when he was doing that, because of being forced to do that. But obviously, we're not under Ten Hag anymore. Under Amorim, it's a completely different kind of system where he's been asked to solve problems in front of defenders instead of behind them, and that's requiring a different skill set, which he doesn't seem to have. But give him a chance. We'll see. One player who's been playing really well lately, as a result of not as a result, after Roy Keane's criticism, has been Bruno Fernandes. He's really stepped up. I think he took his overall goals and assists to 30 combined for every season that he's been at United, apart from one, which is I think that the point is that he started the season poorly, Bruno, but he's really done well in recent weeks since Keane's criticism, really. What did you make of his performance? I mean, he's been asked to play further back. He's still not. You wouldn't say there's any great ball retention in there. He's not keeping the ball ticking over like you would expect maybe an Eriksen and a Casemiro to be doing in that area. But you can't argue with the output.
No, you can't. And no, I don't think you can. What you're getting at the moment, when it's needed, he's the one that could dig in. But when you look at it in the key games, the big games, when it's mattered, he flatters to deceive. And I think that's what Roy's alluding to. Yeah. Him as a personality, him as a person, as leader of men, when it matters in the bigger games as such, and when you're looking for that little bit more, he doesn't see him. And again, that's what Roy is talking about. And Roy's in his way. I'm no different to him. He's no different to me. He's talking about United. He's talking about the good times, the great times, and when players, when you looked at players and you knew you could count on them in those big occasions, and all he's doing is looking at Bruno. And we're looking at United where they are and saying he wouldn't excel in a top United team, and I don't think he would either because of his discipline and the way he plays. But when you look at it and what football is about today, Bruno is worth 200 million if people are going to talk about because they love using this word, numbers. Yeah. People talk rather than looking at the individual playing football, they will go numbers, and someone would just buy him off a sheet of paper or a delivery by email. There's his numbers. Do you want him? Yes or no? Can we see a video? No, numbers. And that's what football's gone. It's gone very much data orientated, and that's how football has changed. But you bring him in as a person, and you suddenly find out more about him. So on that side of it, where you look where United are, they wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't for him. But if we was talking about a different United, a United where what everyone knew about or kind of know that are back where they should be, competing to win leagues and compete in a top European competition, I don't think he fits in their way. I really don't. As a player, when it's mattered in those games, he hasn't stepped forward. He isn't the person you look at those moments. So, but you'd always look at a Brian Robson. You would always look at a Roy Keane. You would definitely always look at a Mark Hughes in those occasions.
Yeah. No, that's fair. The other thing to do is look at the system. So, United won comfortably against Sociedad. They won comfortably against Leicester. There is that framing of this context, which I did say earlier on, you can only beat what's in front of you. The poor sides, you do worry about what will happen after the international break because of the number of sides that we've got. We've got the 2 European games against Lyon. We've got Newcastle away. I think it's Newcastle away. We've got Man City coming up. With Forest away as well. Some difficult games for us. A run of games there. Ironically enough, United have played better away from home. Maybe playing Newcastle away. Although I would say Newcastle on the back of the crest of a wave, what they're currently on. If that's their next home game, which I guess looking at the fixtures, it looks like it could be. Might be a very, very difficult one for United to come up with. But what do you make of that? Because, you look at the system and you're saying all these players have got to perform well. And like yesterday, we're saying, all right, Oyland did well and Garnacho did well, but it's all about what happens next. More celebrations for Paul there. He didn't even say anything that time. That sold me.
That might be the reason why I never said anything.
Yeah, maybe. More again.
That's it. That is the reason.
Right. So if you look at the sort of the way that a team plays and the way that they're getting to know each other, and like they've had some time in this system, and now you say, all right, with the benefit of the doubt, they played well against Sociedad, they played well against Leicester last night. What value does that momentum have at this point? You know what I mean? I know you're saying like all about the next game, and I know it is really about that. But is there any value based on what they've took from these last games? Can they really take anything of confidence, or is it a case of like you've got to see really for this team to prove itself now? They've got to get a run of convincing performances and results. So it's not so much in what they did in the last two games; it is what they do in the next 5 or 6.
Yeah, it is about the next game. What happened yesterday, they need to take a lot of that into with the next game, and performances are so vital in everything you do, and a win is the cherry on top. So if you can actually go and go there and get that. But I'll tell you what, they go in the next game and the performance is assured and everything, and you see them edging forward in performances and individual performances, but you don't get the win. That's not a bad thing considering how the season's been, because it's been terrible performances, it's been horrible losses, and it's been nowhere near the standards that the club should be at. But the fact of they've gone and got a decent benchmark, saying that people go, oh, Leicester, but still, you still have to be right, because you might win the game 1-0, but it could be awful performance. And if it had been that way, Wayne, everyone would have been very negative about it. But people are positive in the right manner and understanding. But they've got a good performance in a game they must win, and they've won it 3-0. For me, that's perfect. You go and win a game at the amount. If you scrape by 1-0, it'll be negativity. They got the 3, so the next game is even bigger for you to carry that on, to take on, and those standards were set by Sir Alex. He set that on performances. He was, as I said many times, everything was about performances. Many a time there were rollickings in the dressing room when we won games. I wasn't used to that initially happening. You win a game and you're happy just to win a game. It doesn't matter how it's done. It's done. Give me my win bonus. That was it. But with the boss, he wanted to take away win bonuses because he felt he didn't deserve it because of the manner in which you won. And I don't think you can lose those. I don't think you can lose those when you hear about some teams, when you hear their managers talking of the sides that compete, they're along that way as well about performances. Performances make you feel good as an individual. You look around everyone, you think, blimey, now we look unbeatable. And more importantly, the people out there are paying good money to watch. How good do they feel? Like, how good does fans feel when a team have played well in the game and they come away smiling, especially more so when they've got a win behind it as well?
Yeah, Johnny says there it's always that. However, they can take heart from previous performances. They've done things they couldn't do previously. Scored, defended well, fighting a lot more intensity. Yeah, I mean they're definitely. Yeah, again, it's not perfect, but the blueprint is there. Johnny says there is that to be said. There is there anything that you've seen in the system that obviously familiarity with it. Is there anything now you've seen that all right they're getting into some kind of rhythm, but again, is that taking into consideration the level of opposition that we've played against recently? Because I think they're, what I mean, they're almost like parallel conversations, aren't they? But you can't discount the fact that we have played poor opponents.
Yeah, I have, but you think about poor opponents earlier in the season, and it was poor performances and poor results.
Yeah,
That's how you can look at it, and you can look at certain players over the last few games and step forward. I thought Delit has been brilliant for me. I think he's got an opportunity, and he's had an opportunity to be there, and he suddenly feels he's the key man. Ironically, his performances coincided the fact of Harry Maguire not being next to him, and the fact of the defensive side of it. Up until the end, it looked fine. As a young lad, he's coming and he has stepped forward in front of Euro. As far as I'm concerned, I've seen more from him in his time on the pitch than what I've seen in Euro whatever. What I've seen now. I've seen more confidence and belief when he's got the ball. He's defensive. Defensively, he looks more comfortable. He's not jittery in the way he defends. There's a lot more. There's more of a natural defender, and if you're playing one of those three, you have to have those natural instincts. It's not about size. it shouldn't really be about pace. It should be just instinct. Should be your strength with and without the ball. And I wasn't seeing that. When I've seen it, I talked about Lindelof before he come in, and I saw it in abundance. But that's Lindelof. He's just a person who hasn't had a good run of games, has had time, but hasn't really been able to compete because he's been injured. But he come in from the cold and done a great job.
What do you make of Evan then? Because I mean, like, it's only a couple of starts in there and a couple of substitute appearances. But I agree with you. I mean, he was so. It's the thing what we said when Manu made his debut, right? He said the first thing you look for in a kid, apart from quality, because I think that's a prerequisite, is the temperament. His temperament's so important at United. It's crucial in their ability to sort of step in and just play naturally. As soon as Cobby came into midfield, you were like, he can stay there as far as I'm concerned. Because he was that good and he knitted perfectly with everything. Evan has that, doesn't he? I mean, you could have an argument if they were both fit. It's not a one that you would dwell on for a long time. Him and Martinez, if they were both fit, it's not cut and dried that you're definitely going to play Martinez there. If Evan continues to just play the way that he has done, like I say, he's already showed more natural inclination there than Yoro in terms of his ability to sort of move unruffled with everything, even when he was making the sort of naive not mistakes really, like little tiny errors. He was compensating for them. He was confident enough. He wasn't getting jittery. He was just like, all right, I'll come back and I'll cover that. And he made one great recovery tackle yesterday. As far as I'm concerned, until the injury, I thought he was United's best player.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said there is what is right. And the thing with Martinez is that if he does come back fit, and hopefully, touch wood, there's nothing wrong with the lad. Everything's fine. Everything was just precautionary in the way things are. It's nothing serious. But you would go with him because of his age. You'd look at where he is. You'd look at the fact of how he's come in and how he's conducted himself, and you'd want to take that forward because it's someone like him who's stepped away from a club to come to Manchester United for the reasons what have been happening of him getting his opportunities earlier, because he doesn't play in Arsenal as a centre half because he doesn't suit the narrative of Arteta. So he's come to Manchester United. He's playing. He's come to I'm sure all his family and everyone, the biggest club in the world. And he's gone in there and he's played well. You don't take that away from a young player. Trust me, I've been there and I felt it after. But it's a fact.
Yeah,
it's a fact. You just can't do that to you, especially when they come in the manner in which he's done. And I don't think many supporters would say any different, given how he's come in. And as we know, the real Manchester United fans love young players to come in and do well and stay in there. And the club has got the heritage behind it to prove that it is successful.
Yeah. Dan says here, Ari Evan, good morning, Dan. You're doing well, mate. He says, I think we need to temper expectations. Great start for the kid. I don't think he's ready to be a starter if all were fit. People were saying the same about Cambuala last year. No, that's fair, but I think I see more in Heaven than I did with Cambuala. Although I agree. I think he's less raw than what Cambuala was. He looks like he's got 30 professional appearances behind him, and that he's already. You remember when Cobby came in and he made a mistake maybe 3 games in against West Ham?
Yeah, with the ball, yeah.
And then he came back, he recovered. He looks like he's at that stage of development. So Cobby at the back end of last season where he was just running games, or at least looking United's most assured midfielder in there. I feel like we've seen that from Evan, like he's already navigated a bump or two. Having said that, you don't know the extent of this injury yet. We're still waiting to hear, and hopefully it won't be too bad. Hopefully it was more of a precaution, but it looked pretty bad. I wouldn't be surprised if he's out for the rest of the season, which will be absolutely devastating for United. But De Ligt played all right there, covering. Although indeed he went a bit nasty with that tackle on him. Just before we go, Paul, a quick pod today. International break then. Is it coming at the right time for United to sort of take a breather and get a few players back, or is it disrupting what momentum they have built?
I think it's coming at the right time for everybody, really, at this moment. Not just for Manchester. I think every team. I don't know. Maybe the supporters need a breather from it. A little rest of worry about United and what's going on. and just everything that's gone on. I think it is needed at this time. Does everyone want to watch international football? The answer's still going to be the same. Not really, not really interested. But just a weekend of a worry about Manchester United going into another game at this moment. I would say a lot of fans just want a nice break. Maybe go and watch a non-league game. Go and watch something else. But a break from Manchester United and what's going with it. And the manager would mostly love it as well because he's had at this moment he's had something which he's seen, which has stepped a little bit. He's got more time to work with it. Some people will go, "I'll give the players a few days off, let them rest," and that. No, they can rest while they train. They can walk, maybe walk a bit quicker rather than run. But they need still just to kind of still go over, talk over the good bits, walk through the good bits. About just a steady reminder. But this break, this may be I think this is the first time I've ever said that at any given time. But maybe because I've got a little bit fed up of watching Premier League games too often, and virtually find a majority tedious. Manchester United being, getting by rather than actually stepping forward. So, given what's happened, I'll say it again. I think it's come just at the right time.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very odd to sort of analyse this last conclusion to the season, but we'll be doing it. Dave will hopefully be back. I know he's having a few weeks off because he's got some business to attend to in the States, but Paul and I will be back anyway to talk about however that shapes up. A lot of individual futures on the line, as we've already talked about, so that will be interesting nonetheless. As well as European fortunes for United. Let's hope that Aidan Evan will be part of that conversation as we move after the international break. Thanks for being with us this morning, guys. Sorry, it's just a short one. Thankfully, the system didn't crash on me the second time round. We'll be back next week. Stay safe, stay well, and thanks for listening and watching.